The gospel reading today is from St. Mark chapter 7 in the Pew Bible. It is the New Testament, page 42, and I'm still reading from King James. Then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes, which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashen hands, they found fault. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands oft, eat not, holding the tradition of their elders. And when they come from the market, except they wash their hands, they eat not, and many other things there be, which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots, brazen vessels, and of tables. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, Why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashen hands? He answered and said unto them, Well hath Esaias prophesied on your hypocrites, as it is written, This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrine the commandments of men. And when he had called all the people unto them, he said unto them, Hearken unto me, every one of you, and understand. There is nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are they that defile the man. Thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile the man. And from thence he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon, and entered into a house. I'm sorry, that's the end. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be God.
Thank you. The verse that Barbara just read reminds me of a scene from Gone with the Wind. I don't know how many you are with that movie. Some people are Gone with the Wind aficionados. They know every line of it. But it's the scene I'm talking about where it's after the Civil War and Scarlett O'Hara has returned to Tara in poverty. Whereas before she was this wealthy Southern belle, now she is back at Tara after the war. Tara's still standing. And of course, she has to go out and work in the fields, just like the slaves that she owned had to do before the war. She herself has now become a field worker. Well, if you remember the story, remember that she had to get enough money to pay the taxes, the taxes on Tara. It was $300, which, as she said, may as well have been $3 million for her and her family at that time. So, hearing that Red Butler is in a kind of a gentleman's prison in Atlanta, she decides to go and charm that $300 out of Red Butler. Of course, she doesn't have anything decent to wear. That's the scene where she grabs the velvet curtains from the window and makes this old Southern belle type velvet dress, green velvet dress, so that she can deceive Red and make him think that everything is fine at Tara as it always was, and she's certainly not going to tell him the reason that she needs the money, but she doesn't want to come to Red as if she's begging. She wants to continue to keep the power that she has over him and over people. So she finds Red in the prison, right? And she goes to see Red. And Red just greets her effusively, sees the way she's dressed, and said, Thank heavens there's something left of grace and beauty in this world. And then he looks at her hands. He looks at her hands. And his whole countenance changes. And this is what he says to her. Quote back from the movie. You can drop the moonlight and the magnolias, Scarlet. So things have been going well at Tara, have they? What have you done with your hands? These don't belong to a lady. You've worked with them like a field hand. Why did you lie? what are you up to? Winds up, he doesn't give the $300 anyway, because all of his money is restricted because he's under arrest. He can't even get to it. But he sees right through what Scarlett is doing by looking at her hands. Her hands say she what's really going on. The moonlight and magnolias are over. Now, there's another scene similar to that in a movie that had the opposite type, the same movie, the same scene, but it had an opposite type of result. And that was the movie Jaws. Well, probably all of us have seen Jaws. And remember that Quint was the fisherman, right, who was going out to the shark, and Brody, the police chief, was going with him, and also Hooper, the kind of young, smart-aleck oceanographer, rich, wealthy kid, played by Richard Dreyfuss, right? And so Quint looks at him with that kind of appraises him with that old fisherman's eye and grabs his hands and goes, "Let me see your hands." Because, Hooper wants to be the mate on the boat. He wants to go. Quint looks at his hands and goes, "These aren't sharking hands," he says. "These are soft hands, wealthy boys' hands, college boys' hands." Just putting him down and keeping him down. So here we see two conclusions about hands made completely different, but both of them being put downs. You've got kind of the field worker hands versus the wealthy hands. Two different situations, but two readings or definitions of who a person is by the way their hands look. Because their hands tell a story. Their hands reveal something hidden about that person that is revealed. And in the story that we hear from the gospel this morning, from Mark's gospel, we see another story of hands that reveal something, but not so much reveal the ones that have the hands, the ones who judge those hands, who are judged by Christ. Isn't it interesting how our bodies can not only define something about us, but there are even archetypes created from certain physical characteristics that maybe are kind of old or quaint, but we still hear them sometimes today. You ever heard of a redneck? Redneck. Where's that come from? Well, farmers, they had their hats, but they couldn't always cover their necks. Some would burn their necks. Also, hay is an irritant. And it would irritate their hands and their necks. They would wear gloves. They wouldn't cover their necks. And that's where redneck was. Now redneck is an archetype. Right? It's an archetype. Police used to be called flatfoots because they would walk the beat and walk and walk and walk. So they would have flat feet called flatfoots. That's an old term, not used much today. Lawyers. You ever heard a lawyer called a mouthpiece? Does that kind of make sense for a lawyer? Because lawyers like to talk, like ministers. They like to talk and talk, they like to talk and talk and talk. And so, lawyers have been called mouthpieces. And there are all kinds of expressions, things like that, where a body part becomes kind of an archetype for a person. And those same type of stereotypes existed in the time of Christ. And we hear some of them from this story this morning. But of course, those archetypes were particular to the culture of its time. And they were archetypes. Give you an example. Lepers. Now, of course, when we think of lepers, we think of the disease of leprosy. But when they use that word, yes, they were talking about people who had that particular disease, but they could also be talking about someone that had any disease, or psoriasis, or dermatitis, any type of skin defect was called leprosy. And if you were determined to be a leper, whether you had leprosy or not, that had implications for your life, didn't it? Lepers are featured throughout the Gospels. Jesus heals the lepers. He welcomes the lepers. He calls them to him when everybody else is running away. Imagine just having something as simple as psoriasis and being treated the way that lepers are treated. Then there was that group called the uncircumcised. Who were the uncircumcised? Well, whoever wasn't circumcised. Or that became a general term for anyone who was not a Jew in Israel. If you were one of the uncircumcised, that had implications. It really had nothing to do with you physically. It had to do with the way you were viewed in that culture, the way you were treated in that culture. That is an uncircumcised. Get away from it. You don't want anything to do with it. And of course, that simple division between male and female. Talk about body differences that created cultural archetypes or had cultural implications. If you were a male, you were an owner. If you were a female, you were owned. You were property. Basically the way it works in the culture of Christ's day, which is why Christ's remarkable ability to treat women as equals, that no one had seen that before in that time, ever. In the Roman world, it was a little bit better, but certainly not in the traditional Jewish world, the world of Israel first century. And it is just remarkable to see the way that Christ interacted with women. He treated them as equals. He gave them the power and the respect of being owners in that culture. And of course, there were the clean and unclean. That was a big distinction, especially among the scribes and the Pharisees. And what did clean and unclean mean? It meant whatever the Pharisees or the scribes or the religious leaders decided that it meant. They had the power to make that decision. They had the power to declare someone clean and unclean. Women were always unclean, as far as they were concerned. Therefore, women were never allowed into certain parts of the temple. They were always unclean. And even some of the righteous Jewish males were unclean. Maybe because their ancestors had done something bad, or maybe because they were sick. The sick were unclean. Just people suffering ordinary illnesses or terrible physical challenges. They were unclean. It was a terrible distinction. And it divided that world into kind of those accepted by God, who were the clean, and those who were rejected by God, who were the unclean. That was the Pharisees' language, and it was their obsession, and they reinforced their cleanliness, right? They reinforced their status by going through all these rituals of cleanliness. They didn't just wash their hands one time, they would wash them 7 times. And if a Gentile or an unclean one would walk in front of their home, they would run out with a bucket and wash the stones where they could walk. All these elaborate rituals of cleanliness, which for Jesus was very frustrating. Where did all these rituals of cleanliness come from? Well, they really weren't in the revealed law as we read it in Hebrew Scripture. The revealed law, there are things about cleanliness there, but not to the degree the rituals that the scribes and the Pharisees and the priests went through. No, instead, all those rituals about cleanliness came from what was called the oral law, the spoken tradition of the rabbis. Now, the prophets, when they spoke, they revealed the heart of the revealed law. They were revealing what God intended with the law. But the rabbis just made rules up. And they used those rules to divide themselves from the people, and to divide the people from each other, and to divide everyone from God. Everyone. That was very frustrating to Jesus. There was a term that was coined in the 18th century in England, in a novel, The Great Unwashed, which simply meant all the lower classes. Well, that is exactly the Pharisaic view. Everyone except them were a part of the great unwashed, including Jesus himself. And we hear that come out as they, not speaking directly to Jesus, as they talk to Jesus' disciples about why does he let these people eat with unclean hands? More than likely, when they say unclean hands, they don't mean unwashed hands, They mean hands that didn't go through the rituals of washing all the way up here and all the way up here and doing it 6 or 7 times in the appropriately blessed water. That to them was unwashed. That's what they meant by unwashed. And you can hear Jesus' frustration. He hears them. They don't ask him directly. He hears them ask that question, the Pharisees and the scribes, and he says to them, kind of shakes his head. You can see that. Isaiah prophesied rightly about you hypocrites, as it is written. This people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship, teaching human precepts as doctrines. Teaching human precepts as doctrines. Doctrines. Dogma. Ritual. Religion. Stuff. Then he concludes, you abandon the commandment of God and hold to human tradition. Speaking directly to them. They wouldn't speak directly to him, but he says to them, you abandon the commandment of God, the revealed truth of God, and hold to human tradition. You see, even though these rituals of cleanliness by the Pharisees were somewhat elaborate, and you had to go through all these steps and everything, actually, it was the cheapest of cheap grace possible. It demanded no commitment. It demanded no change of heart or change of life. All you had to do was wash your hands so many times, wash your hair, wash your head, do the appropriate washing so that you were quote unquote clean, and then you were fine. That is the cheapness of cheap grace. Cheapest of cheap grace. John R.W. Stott, the Anglican bishop, the great evangelist, wrote these words. He describes perfectly the religion of the Pharisees and the scribes. This is what he said. Their religion is a great soft cushion. Their religion is a great soft cushion. It protects them from the hard unpleasantness of life while changing its place and shape to suit their convenience. Religion is indeed a great soft cushion. Not faith, but religion. Stop trying. Stop trying. Jesus declares to those critics of his unwashed followers that certainly it is easier, it is cheap grace to clean the hands, much easier than cleaning the heart. This is what he says. Listen to me, all of you, and understand, there is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but the things that come out are what defile. For it is from within, from the human heart, that evil intentions come, fornication and theft and murder, adultery, avarice, wickedness, deceit, licentiousness, envy, slander, pride, wrath. All these evil things come from within, and they, Jesus said, defile a person. Not dirty hands, or unwashed feet, or unclean hair, or unclean bodies, or disease, or leprosy, or anything else. Only what comes out of the heart, human sinful heart, defile a person. Jesus' demand for clean hearts breaks down, as we can hear, all those artificial divisions between people, be they physical divisions, or emotional divisions, or political divisions, or spiritual divisions. He breaks that all down in these words and gives people a usable opportunity for a usable faith. Growing up in North Carolina, my dad, brilliant mechanic, who just one reason he's 90 now, doesn't have the same skills that he used to have at the age of 90. But one of the things he taught me was how important it was to clean the inside of something as well as the outside. And he could break down an engine within an hour, completely, a couple hours. And he would show me an engine. He'd say, "Is that engine clean on the outside?" I said, "Yeah, it's perfect, beautiful." He said, "No, it's not. Let's go look inside." Because he would buy used trucks and used cars, and he'd fix them up. He'd fix them up for himself, sometimes he'd sell them. He would break that thing down to the rings and the pistons, to the valves, the cylinder, the head, he'd break it open. And of course, sometimes you'd find sludge and dirt and mud, and he would say to me, "This engine is useless, it's worthless if you don't clean the inside first." An oily engine on the outside is not a bad engine. One that's dirty and broken on the inside is. And I learned from him. I learned that an engine must be broken down completely to be clean. Then it can function for what it was made. And it has to stay clean on the inside. It has to be taken care of. And so do we. We who were created for God's good purpose, who were redeemed by Jesus Christ for God's good purpose, we also have to be as clean on the inside, no matter how the outside looks. That's what this meal is for. This is our soap for the heart, soap for the soul. Come here to this table of fellowship. We are the unwashed, every one of us, because we are all sinners. No matter how beautifully we got ourselves ready this morning, we come here as the unwashed. But through the bread and the cup, we are made clean, we are made whole, we are made to run and serve and be that for which God created us. It's kind of like, I like to say, we come here to this table as we are, we leave from this table as God wants us to be. That's the whole idea. Leave from this table as God wishes us to be. And that's why we come to the table regularly. Because we do get dirty inside, don't we? We get worn down. We yield to temptation, or we fail to do that which we should be doing. But here, we are made clean. Here, it doesn't matter if our hands are dirty or not. God wants clean hearts. The love that is inside of them, that we may share that love with others in this world. So let us join together and share together this soap for the soul, and allow God to cleanse us and remake us as a new people, and set our feet upon the path of service. Be the engine, the well-running machinery of God's love.